Hey everybody, and welcome to The Home Show. We are so glad that you are here with us today, and you are about to hear the coolest story about how Jesus is with you no matter what. Maybe you're going through a hard time or something challenging is happening. Well, this message and this story is just for you. Check it out.
Welcome to Church Kids. My name is Miss Kendall, and today's going to be so much fun. Why is it going to be so much fun? Well, because you're here, of course. Today we're talking about someone from the Bible named Joshua. But before we get into that, I need to ask you guys a serious question. It's almost as if it were the question of the week. Okay, has anyone ever asked you to do something that felt like, I don't know, a little silly, a little odd, a little like, I don't know if this is a good idea? Let me tell you this story, Church Kids. I don't know if you're ready for it, to be honest. So, my mom took me on a trip when I was, maybe about 12 years old. And we flew all the way across the ocean and we went backpacking through Europe. Yep, that's right. Everything I needed was in a teeny tiny little backpack. We were traveling through a few spots. We went to Greece and Paris and Venice. And then my mom goes, you know what? We're going to go to Ireland to visit some family. I said, family? What? Was this planned all along? Something you need to know, Church Kids, is that my mom's family is from Ireland. She's got the red hair, the freckles, all of it. And they still were keeping in touch by letters. So we get into Ireland so early in the morning, the sun was not even out yet. I was like, why are we up so early? We just got off a train. And we catch a cab and we start wandering into the hills of Ireland. Now there was hills everywhere. There was like cobblestone like fences along the road. There were sheep and goats everywhere. And then all of a sudden we pull up to this little stone house. My mom says, well, I think this is it. And I said, what, you think this is it? What do you mean you think this is it? She goes, well, I think this is it. Then she says, I hope they answer. And I said, you hope they answer and you think this is it. It seems as if you didn't plan this out very well. Now, my 12-year-old self loved a good plan, loved knowing everything that was happening, and loved being aware of the full situation, how it was going to begin and how it was going to end. And the fact that my mom brought me to some random doorstep in Ireland and said, I think it's going to work out. I said, Mom, why are you not sure that it's going to work out? She pulled out a letter from one of her cousins, said, well, I'm just going based off the address on this letter. I said, well, have you talked to them? Have you told them we're coming? She says, no, I haven't told them. We're just going to knock and tell them we're cousins. I said, okay. I didn't know how this was going to end, Church Kids. I thought this person is going to say it's too early. You're lost. We're at the wrong place. There were so many scenarios going through my head. But my mom looked at me and she said, you need to trust me. Now I thought, trust my mom. Well, she got me all the way across the ocean, hopped a few trains and planes and boats. She's gotten me this far, so maybe I should trust her. So my mom knocked on the door, and the door opened about this much. Someone poked their head out and said, hello? And my mom waved her hand as big as she could and said, howdy, we're your cousins from Texas. And my cousin that opened the door looked with his eyes this big and said, well, come on in, and gave us the biggest hug ever. And it was the best time hanging out with some of our family. Now, Church Kids, how on earth was I supposed to know that that was going to end well? Well, I didn't. But my mom said to trust her. Do you know what another word for trust is, Church Kids? Another word for trust is called faith. And today we're going to be talking about the faith that Joshua had in God. Now let's read a verse from the Bible together. It's in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 30. It was by faith that the people of Israel marched around Jericho for 7 days and the walls came crashing down. Now, Church Kids, I need to put you guys right in the middle of this Bible story. So just imagine this. The Israelites had just come out of this hot, scorching desert for 40 years. And then they were walking upon the promised land. But there was one teeny tiny little thing in the way, and it was called Jericho. Now, Jericho is a city with a huge wall all the way around it. And the person that was leading the Israelites at this time was a man named Joshua. Now, Joshua saw this wall and he thought, what am I going to do about this wall? I know we need to go past it, but how are we going to do it? So he finds 2 spies and he sends them into the city of Jericho. Now, these spies, they go into the city and they are looking all around to find Jericho's weaknesses to see how on earth they can get in this city. Now, while they're looking around, someone spots them and says, "Spies, right there, I see them." And the Jericho police go chasing after these 2 spies. But the spies looked everywhere and they found a place at the top of a tower to seek refuge. They're like, "We're gonna go up there. This seems like a really good idea." So they get up to the top of the tower as fast as they possibly can. And in this tower is also a woman named Rahab. Now, Rahab sees the spies. It's like, what on earth is happening? But once she starts talking to them, she goes, "I think I need to ask them to, keep me safe while they're taking over this city." So Rahab put her trust in God, and she asked the spies to protect her while the Israelites were coming in and taking over the city. So Rahab decides to help the spies out, and she gives them some really long red rope. Because remember, they're at the top of a tower. So now they throw this rope out, and they climb down, and they run back to Joshua. They snuck out of the city with Rahab's help. And they go and they tell Joshua everything that they learned. Now Joshua is like, okay, this is really promising. I feel really good about this. I know that God wants us to go through the city, take the city, and go to the promised land. But how are we going to do it? So Joshua did something that was pretty amazing because he didn't know what to do. He went and he asked God, "What do we do?" So he's listening to God, and God says the silliest thing you could ever imagine, church kids. God tells Joshua this. He says, "Now Joshua, here's the plan. You ready for this? Get a pen, paper, write down some notes." He says, "You're going to walk around the walls for 6 days, once a day. But then on the 7th day, you're going to walk around 7 times. And on the 7th time, you're going to play the trumpets as loud as you possibly can, and you're going to shout as loud as possible." And Joshua's writing, he's like, oh, okay. Yes, trumpets, okay, that's how we're going to take the city. And Joshua gets done talking with God and just scratching his head a little bit like, how on earth is walking around the walls going to help us? A little bit confused. He's looking at God, and God looks at him. He says, "Trust me. You need to trust me." Joshua didn't know how it was going to turn out. He didn't know how the end was going to be. He was a little confused, like, how is this all going to work out for us? But when God said, "Trust me," he knew that that's what he had to do. He put all of his trust, all of his faith in the things that God had promised him. So Joshua, he goes and gathers the Israelites and tells them this elaborate plan. He's like, "All right, guys, I got this brilliant idea." And they're all ready. They're like, "Okay, what is it? Like, is it fighter jets? Is it super tanks? Is it lasers?" They're ready for anything. And Joshua says, "No, we're just going to take a walk every day." And the Israelites were like, "Oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. What's the worst that could happen?" So every day they take a walk for 6 days in a row. They're walking around these walls, and the 7th day comes up, and they walk around 7 times. And on the 7th time, church kids, they were playing their trumpets, and they were yelling as loud as they possibly could. Their ears were hurting so bad. And then what do you know? A huge crack went down the middle of the wall, and the wall and everything you could see started crumbling down to the ground. The Israelites were so amazed at what God had done. Now they're looking around and seeing, wow, God really did this. But there's one thing still standing through the midst of all of the crumbled wall. And the one thing still standing, church kids, was the tower that Rahab was in with the one red rope going all the way down. Why? Because she trusted God. She asked for his protection, and she fully trusted in him. So you see, church kids, God cares about what's important to you. He cares about it whether it's big or whether it's small. And whenever we put our faith in him, God does amazing things. Joshua and the Israelites trusted God that he was going to take care of that wall. They didn't really know the end and how it was going to go. They didn't really know if it was going to make a lot of sense. But church kids, when God says trust him, we trust him. Why? Because he's always looking out for you. He cares so much about you. When I was standing in Ireland on a random doorstep before the sun came out, the birds were chirping, the goats were looking at me, really confused, I thought, how on earth is this supposed to work out? But when my mom said, you need to trust me, I did. And guess what? It all worked out. And it worked out even better than what I could have ever imagined. Just like for Joshua and the Israelites, they trusted God, and it all worked out even better than they could have hoped. They didn't even have to lift a finger or pull out their laser jets because God did it for them. Church kids, what are you trusting God for today? Maybe it's a little bit more help with your school, or maybe it's for sickness on someone that you love and you care about, or maybe you're trusting him to bring you some amazing friends this year. Whatever that is, you can trust him and ask him for those things because he cares so much about you.
What an awesome story. I hope you loved it as much as I did. Hey, but guess what? The fun can continue throughout the week for each and every one of you who just watched this story. Did you know we have daily amazing stories about the Bible and Jesus and amazing Bible characters that you can listen to at home or on the go? And if you want to do weekly service with us, you absolutely can. We have a toolkit and so many other great resources for you to engage with Churchome. Go to our website, churchome.org/kids, for all the awesome resources we have. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.